let's dive right in. So the three credit bureaus that exist are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. I'm going to have a different recording for those three bureaus and kind of explain the difference between credit bureaus and models and all that jazz. So for today, I just wanted to go over how you actually establish credit lines with those bureaus. It's interesting because you can't get credit because you don't have credit, but you have to have credit to get credit. And it's just kind of an annoying game. So the best advice I can give you is, get some money stashed. Ideally, you want to have about $500 worth of money that you could, put up for collateral, per se. And we're going to actually do some investigative work for a secured credit card. Now, let me explain a secured credit card really quickly. The word secured means there's something tangible behind it that you are going to lose if you don't pay your money. So collateral meaning, hey, if I did get a car loan, the car is the collateral. If I do a secured credit card, the money you're going to actually produce to obtain that credit card is money you could lose if you don't perform on the loan. This is kind of an interesting thing and can get very confusing, but essentially the easy way to think about it is you're borrowing money from yourself for the purpose of utilizing the creditor that you're doing this secured line of credit through, their ability to report to the credit bureaus at really no risk. Because if you, for whatever reason, don't pay that back, it's no risk to them. They're not out anything. Sure, it costs them some money to report to the credit reporting agency, but ultimately it's just not a risk to them. So it's not hard for you to get secured credit cards. I'm kind of adamant that when my children turned 18, we got them a credit card, and I was very on top of making sure that they didn't overcharge and that they made monthly payments and all of that. We'll dive into a little bit more on how to handle credit card debt and revolving debt on a different aspect of this. But when you're establishing credit for the first time, ultimately, you're going to have to be the one that produces the money to borrow. So if you go to the World Wide Web, www.google, because that's our go-to, and just search secured credit cards and just do a little bit of research on which one's best for you. And really, as we walk through this path, it'll make sense as to what you've got to do. So if you go to the internet, and I'm just going to use Capital One as an example, and the reason why is because I have a lot of experience with Capital One secured credit cards, because that's where I've started with my children. And they have a really good program. And when you go on there, there's a couple different secured credit cards that you can apply for. And some of it is for the purpose of reestablishing credit because you have destroyed your credit, but it's really there for the purpose of starting out credit somewhere. So if you'll actually research a secured credit card, you're going to be able to put in all your personal information, your name and your social security number and all of that. And you're going to actually be able to apply for a credit card that they're doing a little bit of a pre-screen on you, but ultimately they know that you are borrowing your own money for this credit card. So after you have applied for this card and been approved for it, then they're going to actually give you an option to say, hey, how much do you want to deposit into your secured credit card? And I think, and I'll explain this, but I think you should try to have 500. If you can only do 200 or 300, that's okay. But ideally, if you can get to 500, that's really good. So if you can just start socking money away to the side, that your goal is to have that $500 so that you can actually get your secured credit card, that's going to be huge. Now, I need you to make a little note here that once you get a credit card, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. No matter if you're borrowing money from yourself or it is actually a credit card that you were able to obtain without having to deposit any money towards that, that's still a very risky loan. So just make a little note that says, hey, I need to check back when we get we dive deeper into the revolving credit line so that we can very, very, very much educate you on how to handle credit cards, handle them correctly, not get yourself in credit card trouble, and take advantage of all the perks that credit cards have. There are so many perks that credit cards have. Anyway, side note there, but on your secured credit card, that is actually going to give you the ability to have a line of credit that you've borrowed money technically from yourself, and you're going to be able to actually have that report to the credit reporting agencies, and that's going to help get your credit score started on the right path. I am going to dive in deeper very quickly about what we do once we have that established revolving credit line. And there's going to be some argument out there in the market about what is the right percentage to owe and all that. And I'm going to dive into that in my opinion. And just keep in mind, my opinion is a lot of years of experience of getting credit scores where they need to be. So I'm probably not 100% right, but I know my method works. So we might want to trust it. Anyways, on a secured credit line, if you just go to the internet, search secured credit card and read all of the perks about it. Like I said, Capital One is the one that I've had the most experience with, and they have a really good system. I am absolutely willing to answer whatever questions are out there, and whatever you come up with question-wise, if you want to reach out to me, I am more than willing to answer those questions, because we just giving you information, tossing you out there, and hoping that the information I give you is enough for you to really make an educated decision there. So just as a recap for you who's taking notes, to double check your notes are written down appropriately, ideally we want to get to a $500 stash of cash that we can turn into a secured credit card. If you can get to $300, it's not going to necessarily hurt. $500 is just definitely our goal. And from the point that you've got that and you've researched which secured credit card you want to get, then from there, you're opening the doors to having actual credit lines exist on your credit report. Now, if you'll remember from one of my previous podcasts, I said you've got to be super careful with brand new credit. Brand new credit can damage super, super easy. So we've got to be very, very conscientious of that credit card. And I would hope that as you've done your research on which credit card that you are going to establish, that you've also read some of the fine print about when payments are due and what happens if you don't pay it all off within the first 30 days. But if nothing else, make yourself a note to be watching for the more information coming out on revolving credit lines and how to handle them, because there will definitely be one episode that is just on revolving credit lines, because they are such a huge mover to your credit scores. So with that being said, I hope that I've given you some information. Goal number one, stash $300 to $500, then turn that into a secured credit card, and definitely be smart with how you're spending that money. Only spend money on that credit card that you would have used in your debit card or your cash stash. And I will explain that just a little bit further into our revolving line of credit podcast. I'm super excited you guys took the time to listen to this. I'm feeling so good about what we're able to teach out in just the masses, because there just is not education out there for you guys as you are jumping into the real world here. And I'm just hoping that you will take what I'm teaching and apply it into your lives, and just, man, you can just excel everywhere if you have a good credit score. So anyways, with that being said, secured credit card, stash $500. Let's jump into this credit world and, be adults and not be afraid.